What is up, everybody? Dude79 here, and welcome to another edition of a B&B Quickie, where Tone and I pull out a movie or an event or a game or something and talk about it specifically, something that we've either really enjoyed or we want to bring more attention to. It's a small 30-minute segment where we just kind of go in depth about something that we really enjoy. Hopefully, some of you have seen these movies or played these games or touch. What's up, Tone? And we just want to get people in here to have a conversation about the movies and the games and all the other forms of media that we really enjoy, specific shows or movies or games. And so today we're going to talk about Judgment Night, the 1993 urban thriller from director Stephen Hopkins. We talked about this a little bit last week. This is a movie that I think has gone pretty much unnoticed. I mean, it has kind of a cult following. It has since it's gone to DVD over the years. It's built up kind of like a small cult following. It's an obscure movie, and we'll touch on some of those reasons as to why it's somewhat of an obscure movie. Yeah. So first of all, I hope everyone's having a great week. It's Wednesday, right? It's Wednesday. Obviously, we do a banter and babble proper, every other Wednesday, and today we would typically have one. Unfortunately, Tone is going through some stuff right now with possibly being infected with COVID. We don't know yet, but we wanted to take we wanted to play it safe just in case. Even if he came back negative today, we weren't going to do a show just to play it safe and give him some time to recover because he's not feeling he's not feeling really good right now. So. Just going to kind of play it safe. I hope everyone's having a great day, though. I actually just got done working a little bit ago. I am whooped. I am burned out from this week, and it's only Wednesday. But, anyways, let's get into what we're going to discuss here. Judgment Night. Again, this is from director Stephen Hopkins. It launched. It released in theaters back in October of 1993, directed by Stephen Hopkins. Stephen Hopkins has had somewhat of a decent career in movies. He's since the late 90s, early 20s, he has since moved on to smaller screen, does a lot of TV shows right now. But, director Stephen Hopkins, he's known for A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child in 1989. He directed Predator 2 in 1990. He had a decent hit with Blown Away in 1994. That's starring Jeff Bridges and Tommy Lee Jones. Then he followed up with a couple episodes of Tales from the Crypt. He directed 3 of those episodes on that television series. 1996, The Ghost in the Darkness, a movie that I really enjoyed. And it's a movie I actually might talk about on one of these B&B Quickies. I am a big fan of The Ghost in the Darkness. That's with Val Kilmer, Michael Douglas. About the Ghost in the Darkness is dope as hell. They're a big fan of The Ghost in the Darkness. Then he also directed it was kind of a big budget, but I don't think it did typically well at the box office. The Lost in Space in 1998, the big screen adaptation. That was his last big movie. Since then, as we mentioned, he's kind of moved on to television. He's actually directed a full season of 24 with Kiefer Sutherland, House of Lies with Don Cheadle, and then 24 Legacy, and now. Actually, starting this weekend, I think it's Monday or Tuesday, whenever August 3rd is, The Fugitive, starring Boyd Holbrook and Kiefer Sutherland. So, The Fugitive, a new series. I can't remember the channel it's on, but he's actually directing the entire first season of that as well. So, Stephen Hopkins has remained very busy since moving on from movies, but he's made more of an impact on the small screen, but. Looking at his resume, he's got a fine selection of movies that he had some good success on the late 80s, early or throughout the 90s. Okay, so I have a serious movie question. Derp Squad Dave, what do you got? He's got a serious question already? Shit. We'll see what Derp Squad Dave has to say. While he's typing that up, let's take a look at the trailer so you can kind of get an idea of what Judgment Night is all about. We'll fire up the trailer here right now. Let's take a look at this.
Nobody is taking dates. It's a bunch of guys going to a boxing match. That's it. Why are you looking at me like that?
Because I know your friends. They have the hormones of high school kids.
I'll be home early, okay?
Promise?
You're safe, fight fans.
A night out on the town. A heavy
Love
traffic
this
jam.
music. It
Say
sounds like
something. I'm
fun.
not gonna miss this fight.
And one wrong turn.
We've circled this block about 300 times.
Yeah, enough of this scenic route. What the hell was that?
It's been shot. They're coming after me. You gotta get me out of here. Back.
There he is.
We can't just sit here.
Come on.
They got guns, John.
You broke rule number 1. Do not steal from me. Oh, boys, rule number 2. No witnesses.
No witnesses.
What are you gonna do?
What do you think of the neighborhood?
The cops are gonna be here any second. The cops are not coming.
What's up? You punks crazy or something, man?
Chill out, man. We're just looking for some citizens.
Don't move.
Don't whisper. Don't even.
Guys, don't give up. Don't give up.
Frank, is this your wife?
I get a wife, girl, and I will get back to them tonight. That's right. That's all we got. You better believe it.
Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., Dennis Leary.
No, Frank, after I kill you, I think I'm gonna pay a little visit on that wife of yours.
Judgment Night.
You coming? You coming?
Woo! All right. That is a hot trailer. But that trailer is typically a trailer of a movie you would see in the 90s. I mean, you would just think this is a rather straightforward, like, action movie. But the thing is about the thing about Judgment Night that I really like is a lot of the character development. There's a lot more than you would expect. But, you know, first off, we'll start off with the cast. You know, we see Emilio Estevez. You know, he was big in Young Guns. He was part of the Brat Pack. You know, he was in Breakfast Club, Men at Work, The Mighty Ducks. You know, he's had a pretty extensive career since you know, I think after Judgment Night, he kind of moved on to more supporting roles, and even since then, he has now moved behind the camera. He is now directing a lot of stuff. So he's doing, you know, he's kind of moved on from the big screen, but he was a reliable, you know, consistent actor throughout the 90s, you know, and the 80s, and you know, Emilio Estevez is the lead here. We also saw Cuba Gooding Jr. This was shortly after his breakout in Boys in the Hood. He's very good in this movie. And then somebody mentioned earlier Stephen Dorff of Blade. He's Deacon Frost, and the brother of the great Brad Dourif, the voice of Chucky, and he was also in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Brad Dourif has had an extensive career. He's been a great actor, and this is his younger brother, Stephen Dorff. We also see Jeremy Piven. This was one of his first movies. You know, Jeremy Piven was big on, he had a huge show with Entourage. I loved him in PCU. I don't know if you guys have ever seen PCU. PCU is actually a really, really funny movie. Big fan of PCU. We also see Dennis Leary. This was his first big breakout role. You know, and he's playing the antagonist here. But we also saw him, this kind of catapulted him into other roles. Like, we didn't just see him as a bad guy in a lot of movies. He was hilarious in The Ref. That came out the year after this, in 1994, a really, really underrated Christmas movie. The Ref is absolutely hilarious. Dennis Leary is amazing in that, but he's really, really good in this movie as the bad guy. We also saw Peter Green. He's like basically Dennis Leary's like right-hand man. He was in, you would know him from like Pulp Fiction. He's the guy in Pulp Fiction with Zed. He's like the sheriff. He's like Zed, you know, he's got Zed in the zipper mask and everything. He was also in Blue Streak and The Mask. Yep, 1994 is The Mask. You know, and then Everlast, the lead singer from House of Pain. He is one of Dennis Leary's thugs as well. So I mean, just a really good cast. You know, especially in the 90s, this was a very reliable, a very strong cast. Some really good actors here. So, you know, it was impressive to see, you know, these people with Stephen Hopkins directing, you know, but at the same time, none of these guys yet were quite big-time leading men other than Emilio Estevez. So it was still kind of like an obscure movie, only because when this came out, you know, the budget for Judgment Night was about $21 million, which is pretty small compared to what you see now. But this movie only made about $12.5 million at the box office at a $4 million opening weekend. But the reason that this movie did not do particularly well at the box office is because it kind of went through the same issue that The Dark Knight Rises did. Do you guys remember when The Dark Knight Rises came out? There was a shooting in that Colorado theater, and there was a lot of people worried about, we're concerned, like, is this movie going to do well? Is it going to get pulled or whatever? And the reason that is Judgment Night had something similar happen to it. There was a shooting at one of the theaters at the premiere weekend of this movie, and like a few weeks later, like theaters started pulling the movie completely. Like it got pulled because it dealt with a lot of like inner city violence. It was a very violent movie at that time, and a lot of theaters started pulling this. So obviously, it wasn't able to go out and make the money that I'm sure the studio had hoped. So this movie was in theaters for a short while. It was pulled, and I can't help but wonder if that was a kind of a knee-jerk reaction by the theater, because that wasn't the only time something bad happened, like in relation to a movie. About a month earlier, The Program came out. That's with like James Caan. It was based around college football, and there was a scene in that movie when it was released in theaters where multiple players were out laying on a highway in between traffic as cars were going by, as they were trying to prove how badass they were. And naturally, some kids went out and tried to do that in real life. 2 of them were killed. Others were a couple others were injured. And when that happened, the theater went out and they started cutting out those scenes. And it was really shocking. So I can't help but wonder if, the knee-jerk reaction of pulling Judgment Night right out of theaters had something to do with what people saw a month prior to The Program. So, Paul Rubens was also pulled from theaters. He was. So, Judgment Night, it went out. It didn't make a whole lot of money. But one of the things about this movie that got hyped up, we'll talk about the plot here in a minute, but the soundtrack for this movie is, more people know about this soundtrack and more people have listened to this soundtrack than there have been of anyone that's watched this movie. The soundtrack for this movie was absolutely huge at the time because of the collaboration of hip-hop artists and rock artists at that time that were really, really big. Like, if you look at this soundtrack. These are the collaborations that are happening in this album right now, or at the time. Helmet and House of Pain, Teenage Fan Club and De La Soul, Living Color and Run DMC, Sonic Youth and Cypress Hill, Biohazard and Onyx, Faith No More and Booyah Tribe, Slayer and Ice-T, Mudhoney and Sir Mix-a-Lot. This was a huge soundtrack when this movie came out. There was a lot of hype behind this soundtrack because of everyone that was collaborating and working together. Like I said, a huge mixture of big-time hip-hop artists and big-time rock groups all working together on this soundtrack. And it was pretty wild. More people were excited about this soundtrack than actually went to the actual theater to see this movie. It's pretty wild when you think about it. It's incredibly difficult to buy a physical version of this soundtrack. I think I was looking up, and I mean, not incredibly difficult, but they're really priced up there. But you can find this. You can actually listen to this on Spotify, and I believe it's also on iTunes. Yes, this was the Dennis Leary movie. This was his first big movie after his stand-up started breaking out. This was his first movie on the big screen as the antagonist of Judgment Night. So obviously the soundtrack was a really, really big deal. The movie got pulled from theaters due to a shooting, so it never really kind of got to get its, spin its wheels and build up some traction and build up some hype. And once it was out of theaters, I mean, then it just kind of went to went to VHS, and people started watching it here and there. And over time, it has just built up this like a cult following. It's a very workmanlike thriller. That trailer we watched doesn't do the movie any justice. Like when you watch that trailer, you're just thinking straightforward, just low-budget action film. And while the movie is kind of low-budget, the performances and everything here are really, really strong. This is a good movie. It's an entertaining movie. It's thrilling. And like I say in a lot of action movies, it's only as good as the bad guy. And Dennis Leary plays a very capable, a very menacing villain in this movie, who hunts down these 4 dudes relentlessly, and he's very strong here. So I mean, across the board, performances are really, really good. The plot of this movie basically is these 4 friends. I'm assuming they're childhood friends or they've known each other for a really long time. They're going out on the town for the night to go see a boxing match. And on the way to the match, they kind of get caught up in gridlock, and they don't want to be late, so they hop off the highway, off the freeway, and try to go through, kind of this derelict town, this part of the city that's almost like lawless. There's like no cops around. It's just kind of a burnt down area, and they try to get through there to make their way to the bad part of Chicago. Trying to make their way, and at the time, Chicago and L.A., they had violence was at like an all-time high at the time. And so they really use that to kind of like set up the backdrop here. And like, this is what it's like, this lawless, just a horrifying experience down there. So they go through this town, and as they're making their way through, they end up hitting somebody who's running across the street. They bring this person into the car. They try to give them, medical support, and they realize this person has been shot. And they find out very quickly that the person was shot by Dennis Leary because they were stealing money from Dennis Leary, and that's rule number 1, do not steal money from Dennis Leary in Judgment Night. So what happens then is Dennis Leary and his henchmen, they chase these 4 guys throughout Chicago, this burned out part of Chicago, and it was a very dark, gritty movie. Now, the funny thing about this movie is there were multiple scripts for this movie before they settled on the one that they got, and director Stephen Hopkins. One of the scripts was actually written by John Carpenter. And when you think about this type of movie, you look at Escape from New York. It's in the future where part of New York is burned down. They're behind this huge wall where everyone's just kind of running around, doing whatever they want in like this lawless like setting. And you can kind of see the comparisons there. This was also compared to The Warriors. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Warriors. Walter Hill's like 1978. Just another fucking sweet movie about a group of gang members trying to get through all of New York. Yeah, come out to play. Yay! Love that. So yeah, this was, there's gone through multiple scripts, and in some of these scripts, it was going to be a very over-the-top movie. Motorcycle chases on rooftops and shit like that. But when Stephen Hopkins came aboard, he was like, you know what? Look, we're going to settle for something a little bit more grittier, a little bit more realistic, and that's what they went with. When you are watching a Carpenter movie, how do Warriors come out to play? So they went with this movie. And again, they focus on like the inner city violence, and they don't make a whole lot of movies like this anymore because it depicts people in certain ways that creates a bad image or creates a negative image for them, and so it's not something that they touch on. There's a lot of they use a lot of different words that are considered that are very offensive now. They use these a lot of those words very loosely in Judgment Night, so it's not a typical movie you would see made nowadays. But it's just a very taut thriller. Everyone, these guys. The thing that I like about the movie specifically though are the character dynamics. We talked about these guys. There's Frank is Emilio Estevez. He's a married man with kids now, but as his friend Mike alludes to a couple times, that Frank kind of had a bad boy image back in the day. He never backed down for anybody. He was fearless. He'd knock people out if he had to, and he was kind of a badass. But he has since been married. He has kids, so he's kind of settling down. He's more of a family man, and he's just trying to get out on the town and have some fun. But so you have this dynamic where Frank is a very chill guy. Mike, that's Cuba Gooding Jr., he is like this cocky bachelor. You can tell he was kind of a big wig in college. He's charismatic. He just does whatever. He's the energetic guy of the group. Nothing seems to faze him. He's always confident. And then you have John, that's Frank's brother. That's Steven Dorff. Kind of comes into the picture. He's kind of like the black sheep of the group. He's obviously he's the younger brother of Frank, so maybe he's a little bit more rebellious, but you can tell he's got a checkered past. He's been in trouble with the law before, and kind of one of those guys that is quick to pop off and doesn't really think about the consequences. He's always trying to get in people's faces and shit like that. And then you have Ray. That's Jeremy Piven's character. He's the car salesman of the group. He's very very talky. He's very good with words. He's very good at selling people stuff. You can tell he kind of comes from a lot of money. There's something that they allude to in the movie that his dad was kind of like a Wall Street guy or something to that effect. But he's kind of like this, just kind of seedy, kind of shady business guy, and you can tell all these guys. Basically, you can tell all these guys have like come from like middle class or higher, like suburban families. They not exactly people who are familiar with the ongoings of inner city trouble and violence, and they don't understand how life is outside of the suburbs. So when you put them in this situation that this movie finds them in, it's really interesting to see how their characters react to these situations. Frank rises up. He's like, he goes from this family man to survival mode. Like he's the leader of the group. He's trying to think his way through things, but when needed, he can get violent. He can, he's not afraid to defend himself and protect his friends. And then you got Cuba Gooding Jr., who's this, like I said, he's this cocky, confident dude. But there are moments as this movie plays out, you kind of start to see the crack in that armor. He starts to lose his cool. He doesn't appear to be confident. So you got this dynamic where, you see Mike might not be this total badass in these dire situations. John, again, that's Stephen Dorff. This hard ass when he's around his brother. He's always picking fights. But when he, runs into people who will fight back or worse, kill him, you kind of see that tough guy image start to slip. He starts to kind of he gets emotional. You can see that he's not who he appears to be on the surface. And then Ray, Jeremy Piven's character, again, completely out of touch with society, and especially people who have been enduring hardship their whole life, doesn't quite grasp that, look, there's more to what these people want than just money. You can't buy people with money, especially people who have endured hardship. It's about the principle. It's about the respect. And Jeremy Piven's character clearly doesn't have a grasp on that. So watching these characters kind of, transition from who you think they are to who they really are, which is, typically what happens in these situations where people are being like stressed or under duress. You kind of see a person's true colors, and these guys, it's their performances are so good because you notice that transition throughout the movie. They struggle with it while others might do better with it. And then you look at like Dennis Leary. Again, he's very, very good. Peter Green is very, very good. And then even Everlast has some really, really good scenes. I am not drinking tonight. I need to figure out how to get these notifications to stop popping up like that. I apologize. I am not drinking. You could be kind of pee on everything, show dominance, piss on everything. There you go. But I want to hear from you guys in the chat. I know some of you have watched it. Magus just jumped. He just said Judgment Night is a dope-ass movie. What'd you like about it, Magus? I know, Tone, you've got some things you wanted to say about it. Prime said, yep, he's seen it. I mean, it's really it's a strong movie, and it's sad because it's so obscure, because of the issues that it had when it came out to theaters with the shooting, and then studios kind of like pulling it out of theaters. It never really got the attention I feel like it deserves. It's just it's a very entertaining. It's a little thought provoking. It's kind of like a movie that's kind of like captured. It's in a time capsule at a time where inner city violence was rising up and gangs were huge, and that was where the focus was. And it kind of really it captures all of that, and it really makes you think twice about who do you pop off to, and you got to understand, not everyone comes or has it easy. You see the hard times that people were enduring, and the types of environments they're around, and the violence that consumed them and terrorized others. It was a movie that, had it not been pulled from theaters, I think it could have made some more noise. And I mean, obviously, and that's obvious now, because if you look at how well it's done since then, it's gone to DVD, it's gone to Blu-ray, it's established its cult following. NC Maggie says, I love the thrills in it and how it keeps you on edge the whole time. Absolutely. Tone says, I liked it. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. The small 90s campiness aren't overbearing at all. Jeremy Piven was the most disappointing for me. He didn't get to flex his range much. He was kind of a bitch. I like when Jeremy flourishes like in very bad things. No, and that was, like I said, I think that was one of Jeremy Piven's first movies. So obviously, he was kind of an unknown at the time. I thought there were a couple scenes he did really good with the manics, the manic way. Oh, God, this thing is starting to piss me off. Let's get rid of it. And sorry, guys. Got this shit popping up here. Get him out of here. But no, yeah, it is. It's a very thrilling movie, and a lot of the violence, it's not over the top. Like, it's very gritty and real, and it was an entertaining flick. I really, really enjoyed it. Piven's cons a salesman into giving him an RV. Yeah, that's not to say that there's, Tone mentions the 90s campiness. There's a little bit of that, and it's not a movie that's aged particularly well because, you see a lot of the devices. I feel like when you watch a movie, how it ages is directly related to the technology they're using in the movie. When they're in the RV, they got like this small little CRT television. They've got Nintendo on the counter. He breaks out a cell phone. So it's one of those old ass flip phones that has no service anywhere, and it's just like those are the things that kind of remind me, oh yeah, this is an old flick. Because if you look at a movie like Jaws, I watch Jaws. I feel like Jaws is timeless. With the exception of like the radios that they use, Jaws does a very good job of keeping a lot of the stuff that shows how old that movie truly is. Whereas, Judgment Night, with the exception of a few like moments, I feel like it has aged pretty well. There are some scenes and the way that's production value and writing, yeah. And it's just interesting how a movie like this can resonate so much and so well with you even today. I mean, there is still a lot of violence in our society right now, especially in the bigger cities like Chicago and whatnot. You look at a movie like this and you're just like, man, it's a time capsule. It was made back in the early 90s, but a lot of that shit is relevant today. And, even though that part of it is interesting, my favorite part of it is the character dynamics of how watching these characters evolve or fall apart completely as everything is transpiring. If there was a movie that could have been made back then and stood the test of time, I personally think it would be Four Brothers. Oh, that's with Mark Wahlberg. Who else is in Four Brothers? I haven't seen Four Brothers in a long time. I'm trying to remember who else is in that. New Kids on the Block. There you go, Tyrese. Yep. If I could have somebody make Four Brothers, I'd like to see John Carpenter do it. I watch shit, man. I'll see I want John Carpenter to make everything. I really want John Carpenter to make everything. I love John Carpenter flicks. They're so good. They're so good. And I can't imagine, or I imagine that this probably could have been a pretty good movie if John Carpenter's script had been chosen. Maybe he would have directed it as well. But I feel like Stephen Hopkins was a good choice. Like, I like the fact that they went with a more gritty, realistic approach. Even when, like, certain characters die, it's nothing, like, over the top. It's realistic. There isn't any, like, jump scares at the end where somebody comes back when you think they're dead. Like, they're fucking dead. And I appreciate that. It's just, it's more built on tension and the way that, the games of cat and mouse that go on throughout this game are really, really well done. And I especially love the scene in the train yard where Dennis Leary is going around and he says, don't move, don't breathe, or don't whisper, don't even breathe. I mean, there's just a lot of tension in these scenes as they're just kind of fucking with these guys as they're trying to find them. And just a strong movie, you guys. Just a really strong movie. I think they should definitely redo Judgment Night. I think it would get people talking for sure. The bubs were kind of funny, a good touch. The bums in the train car, yeah. I got Dennis Leary referring to the train cars as condos down there. That shit was hilarious. I think Judgment Night is a movie that they could definitely redo, or do a remake or like a reimagining of it. Because I think it would get a lot of people talking if they could find a way to kind of convey that social commentary that Judgment Night was able to. And it's like, again, it's really unfortunate that the movie was pulled when it was, because I feel like I had a message to tell, I had a story to tell, and kind of show people, look, not everybody has it made. Not everybody lives an easy life, and that's just something that got lost in translation. Once the movie got pulled, no one really got to see that side of it or appreciate that story. So no, I really, really enjoyed this movie. It was strong. I think we got a couple of slashes. Like there's the cast right there, from left to right: Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., Jeremy Piven, Stephen Dorff. And there's the bad guys. You got Dennis Leary on the right, Peter Green second from the right, and then Everlast at the forefront there. Just a good group of bad guys. I mean, each of them. Peter Green has always been a very intense actor, a very strong, intense actor. Dennis Leary kills it. Everlast actually holds his own. The guy in the back, I don't even know who the hell he is. He was just kind of like he was there for someone to kill at some point. So, but overall, just a very charismatic group of bad guys, and it was just a great flick. And you can actually let me throw up this fact sheet here for you guys. A couple things here. You can actually watch it right now on Prime Video, YouTube, iTunes, Vudu, and Google Play. You can see the budget. Again, the box office performance wasn't great, but once it got pulled out, that's kind of what happened. Metacritic, I don't feel like those reviews are just. I don't feel like those are accurate, but hey, that's the beauty of reviews. You can debate them. And there was a couple reviews I read. I just don't think they understood the point of the movie, or they were just trying to speak out about why this movie shouldn't have been made or what have you. But I thought the Metacritic was a little bit low, even though it's only based on 11 reviews. If you go on to IMDb, you can see that the user reviews are much stronger. A lot of people really enjoyed this movie. And yeah, it's a great flick, you guys. So if you get a chance, check it out. Again, it's available on Prime Video, YouTube, iTunes, Vudu, Google Play. Really, really good stuff there. There was one more thing. Oh, if you guys can hear it. I don't know. I don't want to get like a copyright, but we got the music playing for the movie right now. Again, this is on Spotify. Just look up Judgment Night music from the motion picture, and yeah, definitely worth a listen. Really, really good stuff there as well. Wish I didn't know it was on Prime. I might watch tomorrow. I don't think it's on Prime. You can rent it on Prime. I don't think it's available to watch on Prime. It could be, but when I looked at it, it just said rent. Yeah, it's right. I think it's like $2.99 or something like that. It's pretty much the price of it anywhere, but you can actually buy it on iTunes. I think it's like $7.99 on iTunes if you want to buy it. But I think it's definitely worth the purchase. I mean, like, again, it's just a really, really good movie. Strong performances across the board. It's a workman-like thriller, and it's a movie that probably should have gotten a lot more recognition at the time. But I am glad that it was able to kind of like develop this cult following. A lot of people really enjoy it now, and it's another one of those movies from the '90s, man, where you had all these big budget movies that it kind of took the limelight away from these smaller ones. But this goes to show you didn't need a huge budget to knock it out of the park and make a movie that would have a meaningful effect on people or a positive impact on people. And Judgment Night's one of those movies. Not only did it suffer at the box office due to a shooting and it get pulled, but it still has grown to be appreciated by quite a few people. So definitely worth a look. Anybody else want to chime in on the movie if you got a chance to see it? I know some of you have. Appreciate everyone stopping by. And again, I wish we could do a proper B&B tonight, but we'll have to settle for a couple quickies. But we will be back next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, just so as long as Tone comes back clean. Which, I mean, with the exception of the herpes and everything else, he's not going to be totally clean. But as long as he's COVID clean, we'll be his HIV is going to be acting up, I'm afraid. Just puts his business out there. Michael DeLorenzo was the guy that was shot in the beginning. DeLorenzo. At the beginning. Which guy at the beginning? Oh, you're talking about the dude that Dennis Leary kills. The guy that stole his money. As long as his drips are under control. Oh, my God. Josh, I'm not sure yet. I possibly will. If I do, it's going to be more Ghost of Tsushima, so that's probably what I'll be playing if I do hop on tonight. So 9 p.m. Eastern time over on my Twitch channel, The Dude79. Hop over there, follow if you'd like. Also, be sure to follow my buddy Tone there. He is Fanboy Tone on Twitch. My co-host, my friend, my buddy, my pal on Banter and Babble. Thanks, Tone. I appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, I watched this movie for the first time when I was about 11, so definitely a good great children's movie. Great children's movie. Very, very good stuff. But that's going to wrap it up for this B&B Quickie. I hear the family getting home right now, so I'm going to go upstairs and start making some dinner. I appreciate everybody that stopped in to watch this edition of B&B Quickie. Again, we have been looking at Judgment Night. 1993's Judgment Night, directed by Stephen Hopkins, starring Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., Stephen Dorff, Jeremy Piven, and Dennis Leary. Make sure you check it out. Thanks again for everybody that tuned in tonight. If you do watch this, or if you do watch Judgment Night and you want to comment on it, head over to our YouTube channel, Banter and Babble. That's where you'll be able to find this video. Sound off in the comments. Let us know what you think of it. Is this an underrated, underappreciated urban thriller? Or is it just a fart in the wind? Let us know in the comments. Appreciate everyone hanging out. Talk to you soon.